Rahim. There's an absence in my eye. These eyes it would beautify, but I call his name in the depths of night and hear no reply. A thought that scares me when for him yearning, how many were born only to die waiting? A thought that scares me when for him yearning, how many were born only to die waiting? I ask myself when I feel he's not listening, is he waiting for me to start preparing? Is he waiting for me to start preparing? His absence on me is great. On my shoulders the world's weight. I wonder if he's waiting for his servant to truly wait. I wonder if he's waiting for his servant to truly wait. There's an absence in my eye. These eyes it would beautify, but I call his name in the depths of night and hear no reply. My distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, welcome to Light Our Nights with your host, Ali Fadhil, myself, who over the next couple of nights leading up to the 15th of Sha'ban, the birth of our awaited Savior, Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajuh al-Sharif, we're going to take just an hour of your evening, depending on where you are in the world. First and foremost, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. And also congratulations on the births of the heroes of Karbala, Imam al-Hussein, Imam al-Sajjad and Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, and very recently Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. And then inshallah in the next couple of days we're going to be celebrating the birth of Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajuh al-Sharif. And so the aim of these couple of nights and the time that I'm going to be spending with you, the viewers, and the people that will be on the show is essentially just a light-hearted discussion regarding public figures within our community, both locally in the UK as well as international. I personally want to get to the nitty-gritty details of what makes these astounding people, inspirational people tick. In a sense, I'd love to understand their thought process. What goes through their mind? What decisions do they take? What criteria do they need to understand? And do they assess whenever they're invited to a certain event? The benefit for the viewers, hopefully, is that they get an insight into the life of a public figure and understand what exactly the process that they go through in order to be able to achieve the results that they achieve, and also get a bit of an understanding as to what they can take into their own lives, what tips, skills they can take into their own lives in order to implement and hopefully be able to elevate and develop their personal their personal endeavors when it comes to them being reciters or public figures. And so tonight, I have with me a dear friend of mine who I've served on many occasions, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, Brother Sadiq Damani, who professionally and also within the servitude of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam is one that has been blessed. And I am delighted to be with him and delighted to welcome him. Haj Sadiq, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, alhamdulillah. I think we've settled into a bit of a routine now with this whole isolation and quarantine situation. How's things your end, though?
I wish it settled. I still feel answered. No, alhamdulillah. You know, it's all of this stuff is a challenge, but a blessing. I think that's the way we have to see it. And there's an amazing thing I saw on Twitter a few years ago, but it still resonates. And I think this is true for many of us now, which says, your nightmare is someone else's dream. And I think it's quite profound. We're like, oh, my biggest stress is to go queue up at a supermarket. Well, alhamdulillah, there's food guaranteed in there. Yeah. There's others going through this right now with different, mindsets. So perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think there's been, I think personally as well, we were talking about this off air a couple of minutes ago, and from a personal perspective, I wanted to find some way, a possibility to spend more time with my kids, my children, my family, my extended family. And it seems like Allah and God subhanahu wa ta'ala has answered my prayers in that perspective. And it's given us a lot of time to reflect and a lot of time to really connect with what's important and valuable in our life. And alhamdulillah, you're doing great. And also you have a particular beverage right next to you, and I wanted to share this as well with the audience. I'm personally drinking cinnamon tea. It's a very, very simple tea to make. It's literally the cinnamon branches, I think they call it, or twigs. Put it into a pot, hot water, and then you have your you have your tea, and they're cinnamon sticks. They're not twigs or branches or anything like that. They're cinnamon sticks.
I love
I've
the
been
fact
corrected.
it's in like a massive glass. It's not even a mug. It's like a huge glass of it. That's
It
amazing.
It needs a lot. So what's yours, Haj Adam?
It's far from authentic. It's just lemon and ginger with a Twinings tea bag. No advertisements, but you know, it's not as organic as the spice pot. That's for sure.
Fantastic, man. Are you enjoying it?
Alhamdulillah, it's doing the job for now.
All right, brilliant. Well, Sadiq, I think as you heard from the intro, the show is quite basic in the sense that I'd love to get an insight into your life from a professional perspective, a public figure perspective, public speaking perspective. You do have skill sets in many different areas when it comes to the service of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, but for the purpose of today, we'll focus on public speaking. And so could you give just a very, very brief background into the way you started within this field, and how it all began for you?
Sure. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Firstly, anything good comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only from Allah, and anything that is otherwise comes from our errors, which we seek forgiveness from. It really started in a very strange way, to be honest, in terms of like discovering that maybe I could speak beyond just being loud. Which was it started as like a school poetry competition where you just kind of read out, given poems, and there was a competition for it, and I was quite passionate about it. It's like very drama focused, if you like, and that was really like a tipping point when I was quite young. And soon after that, in the center I was brought up in Istanbul, in Shahr Ramadan, and unfortunately they discontinued them mainly for timing reasons, but they used to have these 10-minute youth lectures every night, 30 days straight.
Wow.
Didn't matter how old you were. Well, usually you're like, 11 years old up till 20. Any topic, anything. And it was amazing because you were discovering young, not just talent, but searching minds in the community. And it was by one of my dear teachers and mentors, Haj Ali Akbar Daramshi. And I was a bit young, so he gave me an opportunity which I'm forever grateful to him for, and we spoke on the topic of backbiting. And it was quite a powerful topic, to be honest, to speak about when you're quite young, but it was an amazing opportunity and experience that I'll treasure forevermore. And that was really the start of it. And I think the root really for me is ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to write some words of poetry for an event, or if you're trying to write something for an nasheed or whatever, or if you're trying to write a talk or a workshop or whatever. Ultimately, it's this khidmah, it's the service of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And if you can jump into different avenues, great. But if you can specialize in one, even better, I would say. And that's kind of like really, in my take of it, is why I get pulled into different things, because I haven't got a specific skill set. It's just random, to be honest, and it's just an addiction to serve.
James Milner. Very versatile.
Yeah, exactly. Left back, centre mid, manager, under 21's coach. You don't know what's coming.
All right, brilliant. So, did you have any family members who were experts in a particular field when it comes to the service of the Ahlul Bayt?
My father's a big reciter. In terms of it's been a big thing for him for a long time. That's more like recitation, no-has, that kind of stuff. And his brother as well. My cousin now is a student in the houses. So he's been there for some time. Not necessarily a speaker, but he's on his way. Okay. He's more than talented. To inshallah, he'll be with us soon.
Fantastic. So the reason why I ask is because I think it's a bit of a commonality that public figures now, 10, 15 years ago, their parents were also experts in a particular field. I'll give myself actually, yesterday we had Sayyid Ali Hakim, whose father is currently a reciter for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And so, do you think it's something where, because you're born into it, is there any pressure on you actually to fulfill some sort of service in that area?
Not for me personally, because it was, again, it was only really my father and his brother, and it was reciting no-has here and there. So there was nothing like, it wasn't, for example, I know your esteemed father, he's very well known as a khatib. May Allah give him a long life to serve in that way. And I know your family as well, generally. So for me, not so much, to be honest, but I think that there was a feeling of, let's give myself and my brother and my cousins the tools, like this new generation that were coming up, that were born in London, settled, educated. Let's give them the tools that they need to at least try and do something. And I don't think any of us knew the different avenues. So as I said, my cousin's in Hawza, that was the avenue he wanted to explore. My other cousins got huge into marriage counseling, for example, like a very like niche, but a huge service, if you like. So everyone's got their, different angles. I don't think there was any pressure per se, but we were certainly thankfully and gratefully given the tools of learning how to read Quran and better our Arabic and stuff from a very young age. That was something huge for us, for sure.
Okay, fantastic. And so look, moving a bit on from that, so we're going to focus on public speaking. So this is the general theme of the conversations that I'm having with yourself as well as other public figures, and I'd love to understand your thought process from the get-go, basically, from the minute that you get an invitation. What is it that goes through your head? What do you consider? What is it that essentially makes you think, okay, this is the kind of place that I'd like to recite? Or what is it? What's the thought process on your end from the minute that you get an invitation?
Ultimately, I think the first, and you'll probably hear me repeat this over and over again, but I think it's the only thing that keeps us grounded, which is from the first moment till the end, what's the reason? What's the point? What's the goal? And I think it's really, and I've had moments, where you've been asked, oh, do you want to recite here? And the first thing that comes to your mind, that first waswas that gets into your ear is, how big is the crowd?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've all been there. We've all been there. And that's, I think, the first thing of the reality check whenever you get an opportunity to serve from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is what's the mission? What's the goal? And it's firstly proximity for me towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, somewhat selfishly, but it has to be that, right? And thereafter, can I bring others closer as well? And if so, cool, what is the community? What do they need? What are they actually after? Are they a community in need of someone deeply intellectual? Are they expecting a Hawza student who's going to do some intense tafsir or, some dive into ahkam and stuff? Then let me know that I have to pass the mic on. And I think that's a big one as well. What are they expecting? Am I actually the person that they need for this? Or am I well underqualified? And if so, let me hold my hands up immediately. So that's really like the first thing that goes through my head, which is easier said than done, because like I said, you're playing a lot with waswasa going through your ears.
So there's a lot of consideration from your side. It's not just, because I think with the reciter, it's a bit more simple in terms of the response, because ours is like, sure, no problem. Let me know how long you want me to recite for. So in our minds, we're going to do it, but it's just a matter of how long you want it for, what melody am I going to use, what poem am I going to recite. But from your perspective, specifically from public speaking, there's a lot more consideration, number one, and I think most importantly for me as well, because I dabbled with public speaking, and what you just said now resonated with me very, very much so. And am I qualified to actually disseminate the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam to the people? I have a responsibility, and I'm sure you agree as well. This is a massive responsibility. You're actually speaking on behalf of the religion. So from your perspective, there's a lot that goes on in terms of what you consider. So number one, what's the reason? I love this, by the way. What's the reason? What's the end goal? Because not a lot of people actually do that. Not a lot of people actually think about what is the aim of me actually reciting or public or speaking. So okay, so that's a brilliant insight. Moving then on, let's just say that you've accepted the invitation. What happens then?
Preparation time. Okay. And for something like this, I'm going to say something that maybe the real poets in the world are going to frown at me for saying this, but honestly, I think with a poem you can get it done in 20 minutes if you really want to. If you really want, fine. A decent one will take you a few months, maybe weeks, but really you can get it done quick and be finished. But I think with this stuff, your preparation can be endless, and I would actually say lifelong. The messages that you end up passing through in a given talk, usually it's an idea from the book you've just been reading, merged with a series you've been going through over the last few years, merged with this, that, the other, and I think that the preparation is unlimited. But that's probably the most exciting part, I think, of the whole experience. It's that moment of preparation, because you're digging into more and more material. You're calling your teachers or your mentors. You're like, can you clarify this? Can you clarify this? And you're just like, whoa, how did I? Yeah, you're trying to combine all these different ideas, but then also remembering, no, I'm not here to tell everything I've just learned and have been learning. Maybe I'm just giving that portion. But I think the depth that you discover during your research just makes you, okay, that's another book I need to read. That's another this I need to read. That's another thing I need to look into. So the preparation phase is huge. And I think that, similar to my initial point, really comes back down to what are they expecting from you? What's the demographic of the crowd? Are they, and it's really true if you're doing it, you know, right the way from a children's workshop for 12-year-olds to 16-year-olds, are they from, you know, a more affluent background or well-educated background, or is it more simplified? You know, do I have to use football analogies 24/7 with them to drive the point home? Right the way to know these guys are actually relatively learned, therefore the material that I'm going to be sharing with them is maybe from a certain scholar where it's been a series of lessons that we've had with them or whatever. So it's preparation phase, which is my favorite of it all, for sure.
All right, fantastic. And so when it comes to the preparation, talk us through like practically speaking, is it at night? Is it in the afternoon? Is it when you're commuting? How does that work from your side?
All that and in between. Plus, to be honest, it's no, honestly, it's, again, I think with this lockdown, I've realized you have a bit more time when you're not commuting, so you do have a few more hours in the week, 10 at least, you know, per week, which is remarkable, you know. But it is about just finding random moments and spots of time where you can. I know, and it really depends how early the invitation has come, right? If someone has given you an invite for maybe 3 months' time, okay, you can use that time, and you really can use that time, right? But otherwise, what tends to happen is that you kind of build, or at least for me, you build a bit of stock of content as you're learning stuff, etc., and then when you're like, okay, that's community I'm going to, this theme would work quite well for them. Now let me go back into those notes and refine them specifically for them. And I think that's also quite the enjoyable part. And I remember this Muharram was my first kind of like full Muharram of the community, and I was really honoured in East London with the Imam.
Oh, fantastic!
It's a really, really beautiful journey, you know, really beautiful journey, if I can put it that way. And I remember I was saying, similar to how we do shorter series, but okay, look, let's gauge who they are on the first night. Let's understand what their mindset is, because if you go in, and I think this is a challenge I give to a lot of speakers in the community, respectfully, which is, it's all well and good that you've prepared your content, and you must, but your tone cannot be consistent for every audience. If they are more emotively driven, and it's Muharram, you need to be able to run the themes off your conversation through an emotive journey within Muharram and derive a lesson within it. Because if you just come at them intellectually, they're like, I was here for Muharram, man. You know, what are you doing? You know? Whereas some will go, fine, Muharram, that 50 minutes at the beginning is my intellectual time. Then you can tap into my emotions later. So it really dictates the tone by which you go and converse with the audience. So knowing that community, and after the first night, and if you can, before the first night even comes, getting to know the people, asking people who have lectured there before, speaking to the organizers, speaking to some of the potential audience members as well. What is it that you guys are at? Trying to gauge their level, their understanding. That's a huge part.
Okay. And there's something that you mentioned earlier in terms of when you are considering an invitation. You mentioned a point where it said, the proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from your personal sense, and then how can I then reach out to the audience and get their proximity to Allah better? What's the or others closer to Allah, essentially? What's the criteria that you would assess, essentially, that makes you think, okay, if I cover 1, 2, 3 points, that will get them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Other than the usual, like, oh, I'm giving a lecture about the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, so naturally that should get them closer to Allah. But we know when it comes to lectures and stuff like that, people do zone in and out sometimes, and so maybe it's not as effective as other modes of serving Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, i.e. recitations or poetry. So from your perspective, specifically from a public speaking perspective, what's the criteria that makes you think, okay, if I add 1, 2, and 3, this will get them a bit more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Again, I think that the criteria is massively dependent on, respectfully, what is their level of knowledge as a community or as a group. I know at least in my community, we've taken it, and I've really seen this from the different places I've been to, that we've taken it for granted, the level of education that we've been given from an aqaidi perspective. It really is something we've been taken for granted. I remember in Muharram this year, in fact, there was an uncle who was sat on the side, and honestly, hand on heart, I thought he didn't speak any English. I hand on heart thought that. I thought he was just a very humble, nice gentleman, sat on the chair, just smiling throughout the whole, the whole series, to be honest.
Yeah.
And night 5, night 6, he came up to me and he goes, "What is this book that you're talking from?" I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't expect him to come and ask." I said, "It's called Principles of Faith by Ayatollah Wahid. May Allah lengthen his life." And he was like, "This is what I've been searching for my whole life."
Wow.
You're like, what? We weren't saying anything particularly. We were talking about the necessity of imama. So it wasn't like, something completely random and out of the ordinary. Fine, it's a very depthful topic. It's an usuli topic. It's never ending till your last breath. He was like, finally, there's a book that actually captures what I've been looking for this whole time. You're probably thinking, this 65-year-old man probably should have had that education by now, but you don't know until you go and see him. So I think it's really understanding what is their educational level, respectfully, both from an Islamic perspective and also from, a secular perspective, right? Am I able to use... I think it's one thing that I've realized in my very, very, very brief and humble research into this stuff is that the depth of Islamic science is crazy. I think we really overlooked when we call people scholars.
Yeah,
we really overlook what that really means. The level of intellect that's required by these guys is frightening. At least the ones in the truer journeys, if you like.
Yeah.
So then you can't just come at them, and I think this is some of the challenges to some of the Tullab that come back from the Hawza, is you can't just come back and preach logic to a crowd. It's not going to work, right? They're there to be taken on a journey where you can break it down into chunks, and if their secular knowledge perhaps hasn't been built on the same foundation that maybe you and I have received here in the West, you've got to be very, very careful. So I think the criteria is very simple. It's where is their knowledge both from a secular and an Islamic perspective, and you have to then play the balance in terms of how complex your arguments are, and also from how fundamental you go in your Islamic side as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're now on the pulpit. Or actually, not on the pulpit. You're in the center. You've done your preparation. You've assessed what's needed for this community. Your name is called out. What goes through your mind?
Time to tell a secret, to be honest, which is something that I do, whether it's this or poetry or whatever. And this really came because when I was younger, I think, the whole ego mindset really hit me when I was a lot younger. That was something I fell foul off, and it hit me a lot. So since, it's been a very much a mindset adjustment. So at that point, it's really renewing that intention again.
Fantastic.
It's massively renewing that intention, because that's the moment where Shaitan is like at his peak.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
he is ready to pounce in your left ear and get going.
100%.
100%. So at that point, it's really renewing the vow, renewing the intention, and it's especially, for example, if it's Muharram, it's renewing that pledge to say the Fatima, it's renewing that pledge to Ali alayhi salam to commemorate their son and their family, and equally for any of the nights whereby you may be reciting, renewing that pledge to them to say, look, first and foremost, Shaitan, get out my ear. Secondly, this is to get closer to Allah through the ones which I'm about to go through. So if anything, I take from this, and inshallah, if we can, then Allah will guide those who are in the audience, and then you make your way.
So I've seen you speak publicly quite a few times, and what I've noticed is that you have a sense of presence, and you use silence to your advantage. Because what I've noticed about other public speakers is that they can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and it can be quite monotonous, and so they lose the focus of the audience. So when you're on the stage, you're on the pulpit, you're actually in mid speech. What are the practical things that you do in order to keep engaging with the audience?
Yeah, silence is a big one. The dramatic pause, if you like. That's a big one. It is, and I know, especially for you from a recitation perspective as well, it is about building that suspense sometimes, and almost conversing with the audience from your volume, but also in what you're saying, right? And I think so. What one thing is certainly that silence, is that tone of voice, but I think another one is I challenge the audience a lot, and that's not just from a perspective of, oh, who can tell me this? Fine, that'll get you something, but I actually challenge them on saying, if you, and it's a bit of a dangerous technique, but I think typically people quite enjoy it, which is where you call out someone in the audience positively in that case, so that they feel, oh, I'm part of this. I'm legitimately part of this, and those around are like, oh, it could have been me, and they're with you. And I think this is the thing. It's, you look at any of the best public speakers in the world, or any people that you've been inspired by, and their performance is as important as their content.
100%,
right?
yeah. 100%.
I can tell you like an amazing, empowering story about how Watford Stadium got built up, and I'm sure I could keep an audience for 5 minutes, but it's not interesting. It's not half interesting, And I think that's a big part of it. It's being able to wake up the audience at the right time, because they're coming, and it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It's tiring. It's night 7 or whatever. Some of them want to be there, but some of them are there for the guy after you. But you're like, look, I get that, and that's fine, but just take this one humble message home. I need to get it across to you ASAP. And I have this rule of thumb, which is, if you see someone take out their phone in the first 30 seconds of you getting up, you've lost them. Really? You have to keep them in the first 30 seconds, otherwise it's game over.
Okay. So I'm just making notes. This is all it's really intriguing stuff, because you're right, from a recitation perspective to a lecturing perspective, it's very, very different. For me, everyone is standing up. If they're gonna be on their phones, they're gonna be at the back, and so dramatic pause is definitely high on my agenda. Interacting, people actually, from a recitation perspective, it's I gauge whether they're really into it if, for example, the level of their response is quite high. But from your perspective, it's actually looking at people and whether they're on their phones, and you can generally get a feel of the audience if they're making eye contact, they're nodding with you, for example.
Absolutely.
These kind of things. Okay, cool. And so I wanted to pose a question just before we move on. Something which has always been on my mind for quite a while, especially since I've seen up and coming youth speakers. And some of these youth speakers have now developed into more of a public speaker role. The question that a lot of people have is, what are his credentials? And so, from your perspective, do you need to go to Hawza, in the sense that, do I need to physically go to Iran, Iraq, Syria, in order to complete a certain amount of studies for me then to be qualified to then speak on behalf of the religion?
And this is a massive one. Yeah, I'm really glad that you thought this out. My take on it is quite simplistic, right? Which is, look, if you come, for example, to a series of talks that maybe I'm giving, you'll typically notice that I will say the book that I'm referring from, and we'll cover a chapter. And honestly, all I'm doing is just being like an Amazon Audible, just maybe with a bit of excitement involved. Right. I'll give a practical example. There's a book, and I'll really recommend this, and maybe we'll look at it in maybe I'll be discussing this online on a few platforms, inshallah, Ramadan, to be seen. But it's a book called The Manifestations of the All Merciful. Okay. And it's a book that goes through each of the verses within the dua, Allahumma adkhil ala ahlil qubur as-surur. Now, that as a topic is so insightful. It's so like, it's a dua that we just rush through, whatever, we don't really know what's going on with it, and it seems very outwardly facing all of its meanings, but there's so many intrinsic things within there. Now, I, as someone who hasn't been to the Hawza, who hasn't been to the seminaries, who hasn't studied under such religious guidance and received such credentials, should not be inferring what I understand to be from that dua. Absolutely not. So the moment I or anyone as a young up and coming speaker, or even as the eldest person in the community getting up to speak, if you are not someone with the Islamic credentials to derive understandings from texts or from authenticating a hadith or otherwise, or from verses of Quran, if you haven't got that qualification, don't do it. Fundamentally, right? And if you do say this is an opinion, realize the weight of that. Firstly, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but realize the weight of that. But that shouldn't be the content of your talk. So that's one side. Secondly, there is, in my opinion, little, maybe some harm, depending on the individual, if they get carried away, with saying, here's a book called Manifestations of the All-Merciful. We're going to look at the chapter where the author discusses Allahumma shfi kulla marid, for example, and let's just go through the 4 points that he's mentioned, and I'll follow the hadith that he mentions, and I'll follow the Quranic verses that he mentions, and I'll just bring it to life for you. That's fine. I think the danger is when they go on to infer it themselves. That's the scary part, and that's very, very
so your particular style is essentially you collect a certain book that may resonate with you, as you mentioned, Manifestation of the All Merciful,
yeah,
and you're literally just saying, look, these are the points that this guy has gone through all of the hard work to mention, and then you're disseminating his knowledge to the people. Because I think the value there is a lot of people maybe not aware of, as you mentioned, not aware of this book and the gems within this book. And all you're doing is, and this is where performance comes into play. And this is what I like about it, is because performance then comes into play, because anyone could critique a book. Anyone could say, oh, well, Fulan and Fulani has mentioned so-and-so situation, and he's mentioned, for example, this dua is meaning this. But if it's not done in a artful way, and you haven't performed it, people are bored, right? 100%, and so I think where you come in and your expertise will come in is giving that book a bit of life, bringing it to life with a bit of a performance.
That's exactly it, and it's then naturally giving life to that dua that's behind it. But I think, as I said, that's maybe more for like a series kind of thing, right? In terms of, there are some talks that I do that are very motivational focused, which takes a different angle.
Okay.
But again, they are not, here's me inferring a hadith, here's me inferring understanding. They will be much more, for example, there was this notion of al-Baneen salamullah alayha, that she, when she entered the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen for the first time, said, don't call me Fatima. Fatima being her real name, don't call me Fatima, and paraphrasing, I know that this name has a lot of weight in this house and will bring sadness to your children. And that as a notion, I will then take away from a motivational aspect to say, look, if someone like al-Baneen salamullah alayha can give up her name for Ahlul Bayt, let's now question the level of our service and our khidmah. If she can give up her identity for them, can we give up money? Can we give up time? Can we give up? So again, you're not inferring from here. You're extrapolating maybe. But yeah, I think that's maybe the only other side that I would go into, but that's more from a motivational side.
Fantastic. Look, I think what we've covered today was really valuable. One last thing, just to wrap up. So you finished a particular majlis, a program. What's your review process, if you have any, actually? Sure you do.
I'm quite critical, to be honest. I think most people in this space are, right. I don't think you can finish and go, oh, I'm happy, I'm done, whatever. Yeah. You can be content maybe, but you want to push further. So I will watch it over. I will really dig into that point that I knew was the toughest one that I needed to make. Did I articulate it correctly or not? And if not, what went wrong? Where did I lose my depth? What caused me to go off track? How many times did I go on a parenthesis within a parenthesis within a parenthesis? Like the most annoying thing a speaker can do, right? Stick to your topic. So I will analyze it a lot. But ultimately, and I learned this a bit earlier, which was, look, at the end of the day, if you've done your preparation, inshallah, the rest is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if your intention is absolutely pure. And look, some people will will take it on positively. Others may have challenges and welcome those challenges, because those challenges are for you to improve those that you're trying to help. So be open, but also be very critical of yourself. Just this the thing that I would say.
Absolutely. Well, I think that brings it to an absolutely amazing close. And I'm not actually saying that just because it's a show, but genuinely, there's a lot of great insight, ranging from the preparation. I think the preparation that you go through, not just the preparation, actually before that, your decision making process on whether to accept an invitation or not. That for me is quite gold, because a lot of speakers out there will just say yes to everything, not considering, am I actually fit for purpose here? But that's great. All the way to what I loved is building that suspense when you're actually on the pulpit, but also your style of essentially disseminating someone else's expertise, but you're giving it life. If I'm correct in saying that's pretty much the style, yeah. But look, any last words before we wrap up?
I think for anyone that's looking to get involved with it, please seek guide. The first thing I would say is please seek guidance from someone who is learned in the area to guide you along the way. Without them, it can be very easy to get lost, both from many angles. So please be careful with it. And to centres who are looking to give their youth opportunities, do so, but provide them with that guidance of those that you trust. And for those communities who are not giving opportunities, you don't know the gems that could be sat within your community, and support them like you've never supported someone before, because they can be the flag bearer for your community and for your youth not to go astray.
Absolutely. So, Damani, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Many thanks for your time and for your valuable insight as well.
Thank you.
And inshallah, we'll see you soon. Actually, physically see you soon once this whole situation, inshallah, is settled. It's settled.
Take care. Fi
amanillah. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, you are watching Light Hour Nights with myself, Ali Fadhil, and you've just heard from Sadiq Damani. And he is a public figure, public speaker, and so we learned a lot, and I look forward to the next speaker that will be coming on to the show, so that I can cross-reference as well and begin to compare and contrast how different speakers would, for example, prepare for a certain majlis, or what is their decision-making process when it comes to an invitation, and also what's their review process as well. All this is quite valuable insight to learn from. So we're going to go to a small break, just 2 minutes, not longer than that. When you come back, we are opening the lines. Again, I've got my Hussein TV phone here with me. We are opening the lines, so please do dial that number. You will be coming straight through to me. We'll be going through some very humble quiz, so just for the benefit of the audience to learn a thing or two about Islam and also general knowledge as well. And so, yeah, please do dial in. We are waiting for you, and inshallah we will see you soon after the break.
بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي يا قلبي طاير من ضلوعي أسرع من دموعي يحكي عن موضوعي لحسيني من صدق حبيته قلبي يشبه بيته وانا زاير جيته وبشعبان شع وبان والدنيا خده حول الزهرة بهده هذا حسين بينه وبين الله شقد موده عقل التاهي والله راد يزور والفه امشي وبيا لهفه لاهل البيت فطر سجد حيريد يشفى تدري الخيمة والماي سيد كربلاء الجاي عدهن هالمسوياي مولد كربلاء زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي والثاني المقترن بنفاسي باسمه رافع راسي فأنا العب شفوفه ما ردت ينطيني خيره تارس عيني هو المربيني وبدنياي عاش وياي انا بزوده كامل ارسم يا ابو فاضل حيدر بيه ومربيه حلال المشاكل للكرار وارث صار ايمانه وثباته من اول حياته حيدر قال هالكفال يتكفل خواته عباس الميادين تربية ام البنين فرحة قلب الحسين مولد كربلائي هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي
الثالث قلبي غنى ونادى ويفجر ميلاده هلا بزين السادة سبحانه خالقه سبحانه جمع كل حسانه وانبت بوجدانه السجاد والعباد كلها تظل وراءه
ما يرضع رجائه
يدعي هواي للنبهاي الله يحب دعائه نهر احساس وعلى الناس شفش قد تصدق
يشهد للفرس دق
ابن الزهراء والبطحاء تعرف وضبة الحق يشهد للحرم كون والحلو اللي يحجون هاي الليلة يدرون مولد كربلائي
خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي
والرابع أكبر بكل معنى وابن سيد الجنة جد حيدر جنة وعيوني والقلب ما عافى ينسحر من شافه أحمدية وصافة
يا محلى جل الله ما خالق شبيها
لازم حكمة بيها
شبل حسين قرة عين ليلة تضيع عليها ما مفروق حسنه يفوق الحسن البرية
درة حيدرية
يطلع غير من خير من بيت الزكية أكبر وابن الكبار فارس كربلا صار فرحة كل الأحرار مولد كربلائي
زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي
والخامس هي طفلة صغيرة وبفعلة كبيرة عم ضواها الديرة تعرفها كربلا وشافتها وردة يا معمتها وبصدق حبتها مثل الماس بين الناس عدها المسية
بنت حسين هي
رب الكون وحيكون تتسمى رقية بالايام 5 أعوام صح مدة قصيرة
بس عاشت أميرة
عاشت بجف حسين جفت العشيرة طفلة وشايل أحلام صارت وردة الشام الها بهاي الأيام مولد كربلائي
زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي زين بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5 أبطال مولد كربلائي يا أيها الشمس التي خلف السحب فلتبزغي ولتكشفي كل الحجب وصلي إمام زماننا قولي له عجل فما للعاشقين.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV. You're watching Light Our Nights with myself, Ali Fadhil. Every night for the next 7 nights, inshallah, leading up to the birth of the awaited Savior, Imam Mahdi, Ajallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif. Every night we have a public figure ranging from either a speaker, a poet, or a reciter. And what I'm doing from a personal perspective is to really delve into the nitty-gritty details of what make these people tick, in the sense finding out what valuable insights in regards to their mindset, their thought process when it comes to an invitation to serve the Ahlul Bayt, which I think benefits the audience in the sense that they can take little insights into how these people think, in the sense of what do they consider when it comes to recitation or a poem or an event they're going to speak in. Right? Also, at every night we have a small quiz, and the quiz isn't too dramatic. It's not there's massive winners and prizes. No, it's just a thought-provoking quiz for people to sit back, relax, sip your healthy beverage, in the sense that I have with me cinnamon tea. So it's just literally cinnamon sticks, put it into boiling water, and then you have your cinnamon tea with a bit of sugar, just for the taste, right? So the way this is going to work, it's not really callers in or anything like that. I want you to sit back and if you can, get a pen and paper, or have another phone that has notes, or even in your mind. I will ask the questions and give it a couple of seconds for you at home to respond, just with yourself, essentially, just to learn a few things about Islam in general. And there are also some general knowledge questions as well. Okay, so the way, again, it works is I'm going to go through the questions, give you a couple of seconds to answer them. If you want to write them down, absolutely up to you. But hopefully this way you'll be able to know if you've got the question right or wrong. Okay, cool. So first question is, which prophet was the first to speak the Arabic language? Question number one is, which prophet was the first to speak the Arabic language? Question number two is, how many 10-pin bowling skittles need knocking down for a strike? How many 10-pin bowling skittles need knocking down for a strike? Question number three is, what was the name of the tribe the Ahlul Bayt belonged to? What was the name of the tribe that the Ahlul Bayt belonged to? Question number four, which swimming stroke is named after an insect? Which swimming stroke is named after an insect? Question number 5. Question number 5, who gave Sayyidah Fatima Fadak? So who gave Sayyidah Fatima Fadak? Question number 6, what is the only bird that can hover in the air and also fly backwards? So which is the only bird that can hover in the air but also fly backwards? And the Prophet ﷺ, question number 7, is, how many Hajj did the Prophet complete in his life? How many Hajj did the Prophet complete in his life? Question number 8, bets cells are found in which part of the body? And what was the Prophet's favorite fruit? For question number 9, what was the Prophet's favorite fruit? And question number 10, how many years are involved in a silver anniversary? How many years are involved in a silver anniversary? So those are 10 questions. I'll give you a minute to just run through your answers. I'll ask them again for the benefit of the audience. Which Prophet was the first to speak the Arabic language? How many 10-pin bowling skittles need knocking down for a strike? Number 3, what was the name of the tribe that the Ahlul Bayt belonged to? Number 4, which swimming stroke is named after an insect? Number 5, who gave Sayyidah Fatima Fadak? Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam Fadak, who gave it to her? Question number 6 is, what is the only bird that can hover in the air and also fly backwards? Question number 7, how many Hajj did the Prophet complete in his life? Number 8, bets cells are found in which part of the body? Question number 9, what was the Prophet's favorite fruit? And question number 10, how many years are involved in a silver anniversary? So you should have your question. You have your answers in front of you. I'm going to go through the answers to see how much you got correct. All right. So the Prophet was which Prophet was the first to speak the Arabic language? It was Prophet Ismail. How many 10 pin bowling skittles need knocking down for a strike. So 10 pin bowling, 10 is your answer. What was the name of the tribe the Ahlul Bayt belonged to? It was Bani Hashim or Quraysh. Which swimming stroke is named after an insect? It's the butterfly. I think it's like that. Yeah. Who gave Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam Fadak? It was her father, Rasulullah. What is the only bird that can hover in the air and also fly backwards? It's the hummingbird. And how many Hajj did the Prophet complete in his life? It was only one. Hajj al-Wada'. And what was so significant about this Hajj was that he was then able to reveal to the people that Imam Ali alayhi salam was his, or is his successor in Ghadir Khum. So how many Hajj did the Prophet complete in his life? It was only one. Betz cells are found in which part of the body? Betz is spelt B-E-T-Z. I probably should have mentioned that, but B-E-T-Z cells are found in which part of the body? It's found in the brain. And what was the Prophet's favorite fruit? Dates. I'm particularly unsure if dates are considered a fruit. Probably is, but anyway. How many years are involved in a silver anniversary? 25 years. 25 years in a silver anniversary. That was one quiz. We'll do one more for the sake of the audience, and we'll call it a night, and I ask you for your du'as. Question number 1. What color turban was the Prophet usually wearing? What color turban was the Prophet usually wearing? Question number 2. On which day are British elections held? Which day of the week are British elections held? Question number 3. Where was Imam Ali born? Where was Imam Ali born? Question number 4. Which animal's name comes first in the dictionary? Which animal's name comes first in the dictionary? Good question. The next question is, what is the name of Sayyidah Fatima's famous sermon which the members of the Ahlul Bayt used to memorize as children? What was the name of Sayyidah Fatima's famous sermon which the members of the Ahlul Bayt used to memorize as children? Question number 6. In Spain, what is the word for an afternoon nap? What is the word for an afternoon nap in Spain? Question number 7. Hadith al-Kisa is narrated by Jabir, but who taught it to Jabir? Hadith al-Kisa is narrated by Jabir, but who taught it to Jabir? Question number 8. Where in a horse is the coffin joint? Where on a horse is the coffin joint? Question number 9. Which prophet was swallowed by a whale? Which prophet was swallowed by a whale? And question number 10. What country is the cloak from in Hadith al-Kisa? What country is the cloak from in Hadith al-Kisa? Okay, cool. I'm going to go through the answers, so hopefully you'll find out if you have won. Not won, but if you've done well in the quiz. So, what color turban was the Prophet usually wearing? Color green. On which day are British elections held? Usually on a Thursday. Where was Imam Ali born? He was born inside the Kaaba in Mecca. Which animal's name comes first in the dictionary? Which animal's name comes first in the dictionary? It's an aardvark. It has 2 A's in the beginning. So aardvark. What is the name of the famous sermon by Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, in which the members of the Ahlul Bayt used to memorize as children? It's the khutbah fadakiyya. Khutbah fadakiyya. In Spain, what is the word for an afternoon nap, which I'm going to be using from here on? In Spain, what is the word for an afternoon nap? It's called a siesta. Hadith al-Kisa is narrated by Jabir, but who taught it to Jabir? It was indeed Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Where in a horse is the coffin joint? The coffin joint is in the hoof of a horse. Which prophet was swallowed by a whale? Prophet Yunus. And what country is the cloak from in Hadith al-Kisa? Which country is the cloth from in Hadith al-Kisa? فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به. It is from Yemen. The cloak from Hadith al-Qisar is from Yemen. I hope you enjoyed this little part of the show. It's the quiz. But inshallah, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 10:30 UK time, which I'm not entirely sure of the international, but I think East Coast USA is 5 hours behind. Karbala time is 2 hours or 3 hours ahead. Australia, I think, is like 7 o'clock in the morning. But in any case, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from where you're from. You're watching Light Our Nights only on Imam Hussein TV with your host Ali Fadhil. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بالسما هلال خط الفرحة مرسال مولد 5